Maybe rather than the mayor of London attacking, maybe he should do something about it. Maybe he should do something to fix the problem rather than just sit there and pretend there isn't one.
I'm joined now by Paul Flynn. He has been a member of British Parliament since 1987 and is running again as a British Labour Party candidate. Also with me, former Congressman Joe Walsh of Illinois. Paul, first, I want to ask you for your response to what President Trump has been tweeting and how the public is responding.
It's a very foolish interference by Donald Trump, who seems incapable of concentrating long enough to read 2 sentences. He's got the attention span of an earthworm. And I'm afraid this president, I greatly admire America, I greatly admire the institution of presidency, but he's making your country and himself a figure of ridicule throughout the world. Of course, the mayor of London did the right thing and reassured people. We had this terrible, mindless series of murders. But it doesn't mean that London is unsafe. It's a city of million people. And of course, it's still the best place in the world to come. It's safe and it's secure. And there was reassurance needed because people were understandably alarmed. But Trump came in making some idiotic comments that have been contradicted by the ambassador of London and everyone else. The mayor's playing a good job. He's doing a fine job, admired by everyone. But Trump, who's blundered into office, he's inflamed frozen situations throughout the world. He's the greatest threat, I believe, to the survival of the planet. He's got his impulsive finger on the nuclear button, and he's not a man who has any judgment that we can rely on. And the word I want to hear about Trump is impeachment. You know, the man didn't get the majority of votes there. Sadiq Khan did in London, and he's increasingly acting in an irrational manner. And I'm sure your great country has mechanisms in which they can get rid of him, because he threatens the future of the world by his contempt for global warming precautions, and we've only got one world.
Paul,
pile it on, Paul.
I want to stay on subject here. So, Joe, let's separate out. We know that British authorities have mounting pressure to explain how these attackers fell through the cracks per se. But what is your take on the president's immediate reaction, the attack on the London mayor, a guy who's running a city that's grappling?
And Stephanie, you know I'm not a Trump sycophant. Look, Trump was angry. When I found out about London Saturday night, Stephanie, I reacted with anger. I bet you did too. And part of the problem is what Paul just said there. He talked about London had a few more murders this past weekend. These weren't murders. These were acts of Islamic terror. And the fact that Paul and so many people in the UK do not recognize what's attacking them gets a lot of us angry, including President Trump. And London's mayor doesn't seem to recognize that either.
Then if this anger towards hate is coming from a place of passion, so you're saying we should applaud that anger, why didn't the president have that level of immediate passion and anger and upset when that same level of hate happened on a train in Portland, Oregon, when a white supremacist killed 2 men?
Stephanie, he should, and he should every time a young black man shoots another young black man in the city of Chicago. Murders happen in this country all the time. I agree. The president should be angry about all of them.
That was an act of terror, sir.
That was an act of terror committed by who? By an evil white supremacist. And there are evil black people in this country who kill white people. Stephanie, you and I can go back and forth with this. The bottom line is we are under attack from Muslim terrorists, and London certainly is, but the United Kingdom refuses to recognize that. Paul calls them murders. Those were not murders on the London Bridge. Those were acts of terror.
Paul, would you like to respond?
I think all I know about Joe Walsh is his solution to the immigration problem was to build a moat and fill it with alligators to eat Mexicans. So I'm not a great admirer of his practical solutions to
Paul, it would beat your open borders.
Last year, I don't know if you know about it, a colleague of mine, a truly lovely woman, Jo Cox, was murdered by a white supremacist, by a Christian, who stabbed her and shot her. And there's no protection against that. We have very delicate situation. The great mass of Muslims in this country are law-abiding. They know what the Quran says to them, that anyone who kills one person kills all humanity. And we've got this tiny group of extremists who, I'm afraid, Trump seems to be sucking up to Saudi Arabia. They're the most dangerous people in the world. They're sponsors.
Paul, tiny group?
Is involved with them. But I think we've got a situation in this country where we have to bring some calm. We have to bring confidence to the Muslim community to make sure there isn't an outbreak of antagonism against that community. And I believe that what the Mayor of London is doing, what the ambassador here is saying, the problem at the moment is that the person who's running to be the Prime Minister again, she was personally responsible for the last 7 years for looking after and guarding against terrorism in Britain. And these terrible cases have emerged. These people are not secret terrorists.
Paul, hold on. Paul, it's important to note Paul is running. He's at the opposition party to Theresa May. Yeah. But, Joe, I understand your ire and your outrage. But, for example, these attackers, the countries they came from, are not on the president's ban list. So what should be done?
Stephanie, and again, Paul says it's a small problem. There are reports that there are over 23,000 jihadists in the United Kingdom alone. Stephanie, that's not a small problem. Look, we've got homegrown terrorism here. That's a big concern. Trump's travel ban wouldn't impact that. But again, you want to keep potential threats out of this country. But 23,000 jihadists in the United Kingdom,
there's no
Paul,
doubt,
that's not a small problem.
We're living in scary times. But is the correct response to attack the mayor of London, or say, let's get our head around this problem collectively and see what we can do?
The correct response, Steph, is to get angry and identify who the problem is, identify who's doing that. And that's the point Trump was making. And in the United Kingdom, they refuse to do that, and London's mayor refuses to do that.
I don't lecture you, but the fact that because of handguns being universally available in America, you have more people killed every hour in America by accidents with guns or malicious act with guns than we do in this country in a whole year. You have a massacre of gunfire in America.
All right, gentlemen, that's...
They use knives. If they were using guns, they could have used hundreds. But we don't decide to lecture you about how to run your country.
That is a much larger debate. I got loads of time for it, just not today. I thank you both for your honest candor. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. And
thanks.
My goodness, I forgot about that. The moat with alligators. Joe, that's another level. All right.